Hello everyone, and welcome to our first webinar hosted by Global Leaders today. We are excited to have you join us in our GLT Leadership Sessions on the topic of striking the right balance between leading versus managing. To share their valuable insights on this topic today, we have three global luminaries in the field of leadership and innovation. But before I introduce you to the panelists, a few housekeeping tips. You will not be allowed to speak during the session. You will be allotted 15 minutes for a Q&A session. We request you to use the Q&A functions to ask questions, and the moderator will then ask these questions to the panelists. We also request you to not use the chat function to chat with each other during the session. So our first panelist for today is Dr. Ariel King. She is the founder of the Ariel Foundation International and the editor-in-chief of the renowned Quote magazine. Dr. Ariel King is a Rotarian for over 30 years and is the main representative at the United Nations, Geneva, New York, and Vienna for AFI with Special Economic, Cultural, and Social Council Special. Dr. Ariel's life focus is on inspiring leadership and participation of the world's children and youth. Ariel Foundation International is also a member of Eurochild. Dr. King was a trustee of several organizations, including the Children's Right Alliance, England, Now Just for Law Kids, and the Asset Survivors Trust International, United Kingdom. Our second panelist for today is Dr. Oleg Konovalov. He is a global thought leader, author, business educator, consultant, and C-suite coach. Dr. Oleg is named among the top 8 global experts in leadership and is shortlisted for the Distinguished Award in Leadership by Thinkers 50. He is on Global Guru's top 30 in leadership and has been recognized as the #1 global thought leader on culture by Thinkers 360, and is also #1 global leading coach by Marshall Goldsmith Thinkers 50, and has been named as one of the top 10 most inspiring global thought leaders. He has also been named as the Da Vinci of visionary leadership by many leading authorities of our time. Dr. Oleg is also a best-selling author of The Vision Code, published in 2021, Leaderology, published in 2019, Corporate Superpower, published in 2018, Organizational Anatomy, published in 2016, and Hidden Russia, published in 2014. As the moderator of the session, we have the father of community management in the Middle East, Professor Jeevan D'Mello, CEO of Zenesis Corporation. He has set up the region's most significant community management company for Emaar properties, managing over 170 towers and 14,000 homes and the tallest tower globally, Burj Khalifa. He has also set up Nakheel Community Management, responsible for managing iconic master communities like the Palm Island, the Jumeirah Islands, the Garden, and many others. He is also a regular on the international speaking circuit and has spoken in conferences and workshops worldwide, including the USA, Spain, Italy, San Marino, Colombia, Argentina, Brazil, Uruguay, Chile, South Africa, India, Bahrain, and the UAE. He is also a board member of the Rotary Club of the Bath. Thank you for joining us today, Dr. Ariel, Dr. Oleg, and Professor Jeevan. It is our absolute pleasure to have you as part of our first webinar. Now, I would like to hand it over to our moderator, Professor Jeevan.
Thank you very much, Sherlyn, for such a glowing tribute to, I'm sure, all of us And it's sometimes very wonderful to hear these thoughts. And sometimes you even feel shy when someone says all these wonderful things about you. But it's really an honor for me to be here. Thank you for inviting me. And it is a bigger honor to be with the likes of Dr. Ariel and Dr. Oleg, both whom I admire very much. I was looking forward to meeting. And of course, we're meeting on virtually, but I look forward to actually meeting you in person in Dubai. So please do come to Dubai. And I can assure you, you will go to the tallest tower in the world and the deepest swimming pool and whatever widest you want, right? So if you'd like to just say a few words, Dr. Ariel, and then after that, Dr. Oleg, and then we'll get started.
Yes, thank you. First, I'd like to thank the Global Leaders Today magazine for putting on this webinar and for choosing such a very important topic for all of us, no matter what the industry, no matter what we're doing in life, whether it is a business, an NGO, a volunteer organization, it really doesn't matter. The issues of management and leadership are important for all of us. And so I'd like to thank Global Leaders Today magazine for this. And also I'm looking forward to all of you, my colleagues, having this discussion with you. And I'm going to be absolutely delighted to have this session. Thank you.
Dr. Oleg?
I'm really honored and thrilled to be in such a company. You know this, we all know this saying that if you feel the smartest in the room, you're in the wrong room. And being in such a room is a privilege. Thank you. I could learn a ton. I'm really looking much forward to listening to all of you. And I will try to contribute something, of course. But it's amazing for me is always learning, you know.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So I'm just going to get right away, and I'm going to ask you this question because this is talking about the differences really between managing and leading. So the first question to you, Dr. Ariel, what is the key difference between managing and leading? Or is it the same? Because I get confused myself. A lot of people get confused. What's the difference? So I'm going to pose that first question to you.
It's a very good question. And I think that that's a question that has to be answered not just once, but many times over, depending on what you're doing and when you're doing it. Almost like, what am I doing today? What are my goals today? What is important today? What's important in 10 years? So for what I work with young people up to the age of 35, 40 years old, when we're mentoring them and inspiring them for leadership, you have to realize that you can be a leader. You cannot be a leader without management, but you can be a manager without being a leader. So when I think of management, at least how I work with management, is managing is the foundation of what I do in order to be able to have the stability, and not just the stability, but to have the rules of engagement in order then to go to inspiring. So management for me is making sure that everything is in place. People are following the rules they need to. They're also doing protocol. It's the same at the United Nations. When I'm at the United Nations, protocol, following rules is very important. For me, that's managing. And inspiring is something very different, because once you have that foundation, then you can actually look at what can we do that's exceptional? What can we do that's not basic? Management for me is the basic. Without management, you have nothing. But to inspire is something very different. It's saying that's what was before, that's what is now, but what's the possibility for tomorrow and the future? And how can we actually engage that? And that's the difference for me.
Wonderful. Dr. Oleg, same question.
Actually, Dr. Ariel, thank you very much, because I could hear something that deeply resonates in me from you. Because what happens if you walk into most of the offices and you start talking to people, and I do work with people from more than 30 countries today, and the first instance you could see, people think of the present as a calendar date. For them, it's always like a 31st of February, which doesn't exist at all, but they're still in panic, you know. And here's a big difference. Managing the present or leading people into the future defines the roles. Managers are important for taking care of the present. For that particular period of time, for that particular moment, for that particular phase. But we definitely need leaders who would blaze the path into the future. That is very critical. Here comes a bit of another difference. Managers are important for managing problems, but we all have millions of problems around us. They're like mosquitoes. We can't kill them all, but we still need to manage some of them, most critical, you know. Yet we need leaders to find solutions for tomorrow, beyond those problems, otherwise we would be drained. We're in crisis, okay, we have greater problems, but leaders are about finding those grand solutions that would allow to walk out of those problems and solve them. Yet managers don't need to be visionaries or strategists. They are more about processes and tasks. Leadership is very different. We need both. That's true. You can't, you know, you can't say we don't need managers or we don't need leaders. We need both. And here's a good topic of it. It's not, I wouldn't say it's a balance, but it's about how they could complement each other to create a greater value for businesses, for society, and for the next generation. That's where leaders steps in.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Oleg. In fact, when I was doing a talk about this subject, not in depth, because obviously you guys have more experience and more insight than I do. But when this conversation started, I put it in a very simple way, and I don't know if you'd agree with me, that managers, people must follow a manager, but a person chooses to follow a leader. Do you think that makes sense? You know, it's like you have a manager, it's a boss, so you have to follow what he says. But a leader is someone I choose. You know, I elect a leader. I choose to follow this person because this person has that vision. He has that very far sight, or she has this way of delivering certain things, and I want to follow her. Do you think that makes sense?
It does, in a great way. Actually, why people need leaders?
Yeah.
Because people need leaders' qualities to complement own qualities. Right. Leaders' competencies to complement own competences. And therefore, it's not about I'm choosing this guy is good or this guy is bad. It's about this guy would make me better. I wouldn't just follow him, but I would learn from him. He would help me to grow, and I would be very, very different. That would impact my life. That would impact my future, and I will pass it further on. How much I could learn from manager? Well, not much.
Yes, I actually agree. I think that's such a good point. You know, it's almost like you have to. There are rules, and you have to follow those rules.
Right.
And some people, when you manage them, as you know, do not follow rules. They don't want to. You know, they're passive aggressive, they're difficult, they don't do the work they're supposed to do, whatever it is. I'm so sorry. And so you have a different mindset, don't you? Because you're also looking at, and I hate to say it, psychological, social mindset. So when we're managing and people don't necessarily want to be managed, they act more like difficult teens, right? They're not even thinking in their higher self. And also they're not even thinking in their self that's going to deliver excellence. They're just doing bare minimum. Now, we're not talking about everybody, but managing it's almost like, well, let me see if I can fix this, as my colleague said. And then when you look to leadership, yes, it's an inspiration. It's going beyond, and that mindset, there's a shift, isn't there? There's a shift in the mindset. And the mindset is not, oh, you told me to do this, and let me figure out if I'm going to do it or not, or how I can get away with not doing it or doing minimum. All of a sudden, to be inspired and to have the leadership is, you know, as he said, I want to go in this direction. And not only that, but I believe that I can help to go in this direction. I can actually contribute to do better and to find solutions. And that's what we do with young people. Is yes, we manage. We're very strict managers, and people who work with me know that, but we're extremely strict. But at the same time, we actually expect and demand excellence, and that's not managing. That's leadership. That's saying, you know, it's really nice, We understand that you're 40 or under. And yes, we understand that you are just getting started and you're learning. Bravo. We want to take what you have inside of you. We want to take the abilities that you have. Let's develop them and let's go beyond this. What minimum can you give me? Right? We are very strict about people just giving us minimum. You know,
Right.
it's a short life. We don't have the time or the energy for minimum or
Right.
mediocrity, right? Minimum, management, mediocrity, the M's.
Yes, absolutely.
What we want is leadership,
Exactly.
lightning leadership.
Correct.
Going above and beyond and doing something different. And what's really amazing is that when you hold people accountable, I just mostly work with young people under 40. It's amazing that they stop thinking about the management. Let me just manage my time and give you the minimum. And they start allowing themselves to see themselves as leader and then to produce that and give that to us. And so that's what they show is leadership rather than, let me get by with mediocrity and management.
Absolutely. We got a nice comment from Dr. Colette Smith, who's in our participants today. Thank you very much. She said the key is influence. So influence and leadership. And I think that's a very important thing as leaders. Leaders do have influence. What do you feel, Dr. Oleg, about influence?
It's a great thing because influence comes as a form of energy, right? And as Dr. Ariel said, it's about leading and creating that energy space. Yet time management is very different. Because when I'm leading people, I'm revealing their energy, and I could do it through inspiration, because I'm inspiring people and I'm making others the multipliers of that inspiration. And it gives people more energy to do something beyond themselves. You know, it's not about motivating people. You can't share time.
Yeah,
you could share energy, and that's very different. And this is where your influence comes in, because you're influencing through their value, and value itself is energy for people. But you can't influence people because I committed so much time and therefore you should appreciate it. No, if it's no value in it, forget about it. No. In particular, like in case of Dr. Ariel, she works with younger generation. It's not about time. It's about how to make them more energetic.
Yeah.
More excited.
Absolutely.
Passionate.
I'm feeling the energy just listening to you guys, right? So you're absolutely right. I mean, that energy is so amazing.
Actually, we're just working on a new project with a colleague of mine, John Spence, and we looked at this as what would be the formula for energy of vision. And we came up, energy of vision, it comes as value for people multiplied by effort squared.
Wow.
And you must understand, I create a value not because I have spent so much time, but because I have put so much effort into it and thinking about people, what they need, and I getting more people involved because they could see they inspired and they could see what we do. And that's important. It's about leadership. Yet I need managers at a certain point to fix different things.
Absolutely. So that leads very nice segue into this next question, which I'll ask Dr. Ariel. What are the important traits that the leader possesses that managers lack? And we've talked about a little before, but what are those specific traits that are different?
I have to say that I'm not sure that there are specific traits that are necessarily different, because there are times that whether I like it or not, I must manage. Because without the management, there's no way to also lead.
Correct.
But at the same time, I believe that leadership allows you to step out of that mindset of let me fix this, right? As my colleague was saying, let me fix this. This is a problem. To, yes, these are challenges, right? So you even change what you call it. These are interesting challenges. I'm wondering if we do this, or if we try it in this way, will it change the outcome? You know, I love the way my colleague was talking about trying to look at what is energy. I think that's fantastic, especially in terms of chemistry. This to me is either a physics or a chemistry equation. Fabulous, absolutely fabulous. And then when you look at this for leadership, what you're looking for is you're taking and you're saying, not only is it energy, but you're taking out and you're saying, okay, what can we do to look for not a different outcome, but not just a better outcome, but an outcome that will necessitate never having this issue again, right? Which is so very different. This is looking beyond. You're not just trying to fix the one problem.
Correct.
You're trying to go, not trying, but you are going beyond that, way beyond that one problem. And when we have so many quote unquote challenges in this life, may I just say one thing very quickly? The reason why I work with young people is because they have a very short period within their lives, especially I would say between 16 and 35, 36, sometimes older, where they still have this energy and this belief that they can do something different, that they're special, that they're amazing, and that they have something to contribute to the world. And as a result of this belief, where they don't spend all of their time being bogged down by the management of life, they're able to surpass that and to start to ignite something very different. And once they ignite that, no matter what they do, it doesn't matter what field they're in, their whole energy, even for whatever their career in, changes, because they see that it's not just about managing and doing for today, but I can actually have a vision for what's going to be tomorrow, and I can take action today to influence tomorrow. And that's the difference for me for working with young people.
That's amazing. And thinking of young people, so I've got 2 young kids. Well, they're not kids anymore. They're grown up. They live in United States and Canada. And many a times I think I'm very hard on them. They both want to be entrepreneurs. They want to do things. And I said, you guys are still very young. I mean, you got to finish your studies. You got to work for someone. Learn to be a follower before you be a leader. Is that right? Am I giving the right advice, or am I somehow pushing them down? If they want to be entrepreneurial, if they want to be a leader, is it too early for them, or is it? No, it doesn't matter. What is your take on it?
Are you asking me or my colleague, or both of us?
Both of you, whoever likes to chime in.
I don't think it's a matter of age.
Okay.
But what I have learned myself in a tough way, don't rush to call yourself a leader unless people will accept you as a leader.
Right.
It's about people, because leadership is about people.
Right.
You see the difference. Managers bet on IQ. IQ means I'm cool. Where leaders rely on VQ, we are cool.
We are. That's wonderful.
And that is what is the difference. You know, I have a very IQ, I'm exceptionally cool, you know, and that's a difference. And if people see that we're cool together with this leader, they will accept you as a leader. And you see, I'm helping my people to grow, and in return, they're making me a better leader. This is some kind of a loop, you know, that pushes everyone up. And leaders, they have quite specific traits. They talk vision, strategy, and people. And where managers don't need those things. It doesn't matter that those 3 elements, vision, strategy, and people, should be well balanced. Somebody is better, as great as a visionary, somebody great as a strategist, but somebody is greater as a people leader. But they all 3 must be there. And all of them, they have 5 key traits. People first. Therefore, we are cool together. You know, they all they all think big, beyond today, beyond today's problems, because they're casting their thoughts to the next generations. far beyond reporting period. They're very good on clarity and simplicity, what they do, because that's a very interesting point. Managers love complexity because you could hide your weaknesses within that house of complexity. Because you see, without me, you will fail apart, and I'm just like holding this door. No. Complexity is for managers. Simplicity and clarity is for leaders, because it reflects their structured thinking about complicated things. And of course, I found a very interesting difference between managers and leaders. Managers don't listen. They're busy. Leaders listen to their people, because you could learn about others and from others when you listen. Managers don't need that. They're just ruling. They're rulers of their desks. And that is a fun part. So people first, think big, clarity, simplicity, and listening.
So here, Dr. Oleg, is my question. Maybe some people don't want to be leaders.
Oh, yeah.
They're just happy being managers. So is it wrong to be a manager? Is it wrong for me, just to do my daily job, tell people what to do, have a task on hand, make sure it gets done? But I'm not interested in being a leader. That's just not my cup of tea. So what would you say to something like that?
This is absolutely okay, because you see, it's about leadership assumes enormous responsibility.
Yes.
Right. You should be prepared to go beyond yourself. Leadership is some form of sacrificing self for others. And this is okay if you are true to yourself and think, look, I'm not completely prepared for this.
Yes.
And therefore, look, I'm happy with manager's position. That's okay. Nothing wrong with that. This is true and respectful. That's okay. Nothing wrong with that.
Dr. Ariel, what are your thoughts on this? Is it okay for someone to be a manager,
I agree
or
with
should
Oleg. I mean, we all have our, we all have our talents, and we all have our specialness in the world. We are all unique energies. We're all unique beings. There's no one who will ever be like us in the entire world, ever.
Right.
And since that's the case, of course, if someone is excellent at managing, I mean, there is excellence in management, isn't there?
Absolutely.
It doesn't mean that if you're a manager, you have failed. No, it's just that, as my colleague said, is that leadership is visionary. And I really love the 5. I want to thank you for that, because it really is also going beyond. And there are people that would love to be leaders, but they can't. Now, remember, we also have life.
Exactly.
But it doesn't mean you can't have excellence in management, right?
Right.
You don't have to lead to be excellent. You don't have to lead to contribute to the world, contribute to your working space, contribute to your family. So of course, I mean, we all have our place in this world in order to make it a really good place to live, don't we? So yes.
Absolutely. And this question was asked to me very recently, where I belong to this particular group or institute, you can call it. And I've been asked to consider me putting myself forward to be in an election and maybe, elected as the leader or the president or the person on top. And I thought about it a lot. I had a chat with my wife about it, because right now I'm just playing, it's of course a non-profit. I'm just playing a managerial role, right? I've got some tasks to do. And it's very similar to Dr. Ariel, like Rotary Club, right? Where there is a president and that there are other people who are, just board members. But this is a different institute I'm talking about. But after having a long chat with my wife asked me this question: do you really want to take on that role? Because it demands a lot of time, a lot of energy, and maybe you're not ready for it. And I thought about it a lot, and I politely declined. And I said, you know what? Thank you very much for considering me even good enough to be in that position. But I don't believe that I have the time or the energy. So I'm happy just handling a few tasks here and there. So so I think it's important for us to people to know that it's okay to be a manager, as you have, both of you have rightly put it. But those who aspire to be a leader, there is a lot more that you can do. Absolutely.
Yes, I also like my colleagues when he said that you can't call yourself a leader. I don't think I've ever called myself a leader. What's really interesting is that I believe that that's the case. The people around you have decided that you're a leader.
Yes, absolutely.
And they decide you're a leader by your actions and your behaviors. And they don't want to follow someone who, as Dr. Oleg said, with, what is it, MEQ? I love that.
VQ, yeah.
I love that.
IQ
People
and
don't
the
want to
VQ.
follow people that are just about themselves. It's all about me, and you're going to be around me to make me look good. And what can you do for me? I was like, well, thank you very much. But so leaders are usually those that also want to know about other people, as he said, and do for other people. So that's really important. You can call yourself a leader, but it doesn't make it true.
Absolutely. Right? I think that's the key. Just calling yourself a leader doesn't make it true. And I love that. So I'm going to ask you, Dr. Ariel, so what is that crucial flip in thinking that you must make to transition from managing others to leading others? So several people want to lead, they really want to, but they're not quite sure what is that crucial flip? What is that thinking? So first Dr. Ariel and then Dr. Oleg.
Thank you. Well, so I'm going to go with young people, which is who I mostly focus on now. So I do children and young people, especially people under 40 years old who are developing their careers. So what we attempt to, and we focus on developing leaders. But we're quite clear that when they come into our sphere, that they might have talents and they might have the desire and they have the intellect and so on and so forth. And what we look at first is learning to follow rules. We, believe it or not, we start with management. Right. This is what you were asked to do. This is when you were asked to do it. If there's a difficulty with it, tell us why. Don't give me any sorries and excuses. Thank you. Leave that for your mother or your father. And we're unapologetically called them to accountability. Now, let me say this, just so I can be clear. We even do this with children who have gone to the United Nations in Geneva. They have gone as delegates. We start with their dress code. They have to dress as any business person. There's no pictures on, no sports shoes. From the time that they stand outside the gate for security, they have to look in a certain way. When they're there, we speak to them and say, we understand that you're children, but on this day, you represent children from all over the world, and you're going to do your job. You're going to do a great job. You're going to love it. Afterwards, you're going to be able to play. But while you're here, you have a responsibility, and we expect you to meet it. And what's really interesting is when we ask them to meet that responsibility, they do so. So for us, leadership comes after all of these understanding and all of this management type of issues, or issues of discipline and learning and starting to listening. And then the other issue I'd like to say is that what's interesting for me is that those who lead, at least in our small ecosystem that we have all over the world, show themselves. They don't ask for more. Oh, Dr. King, can you give me more? No. What they do is they show up for other people. And they give to other people. They help other people. They try to inspire, or at least physically help others to get done what needs to be done. So for our little small ecosystem, that's how we work between management and leadership.
Dr. Oleg?
Dr. Ariel, brilliant insights. Thank you. I love these things, because you see how to ensure that a business will have a few $1 million revenue. The answer is simple. Give $1 billion business to someone without vision and that responsibility. And $1 billion business will become a multi-million-dollar business over one night. Because the first thing is ego. Ego kills vision, it blinds one. I don't accept any responsibility. I'm just like on my own. If something happens, it's a bad luck, or so tough circumstances, you can manage it. You're right. If those young people are really prepared for such, I would say, a task, they're fully prepared, they're dressed properly, that already shows that they feel that responsibility. Another thing is very important is, I believe, I call it a mind lock, because we're thinking too much about the past, we're a little about the present, and almost nothing about the future. So we're always behind. And therefore, if you want to be a leader, as these young lads that you represent, they're thinking about the future, about their future, about the future of their kids. It's, you must close this mind lock towards the future. Responsibility is a huge issue. As soon as you said, like Professor John, as you said, I don't want to take step into this role, even I love to. As soon as you accepted to be a leader, you step into Broadway. You're on the spotlight for 24/7, 365 days. Whatever you do, you go fishing or you're at home, you're in the office, doesn't matter, you're on the spotlight. And that is, not many people are prepared.
Correct.
You know, they're betting on choices, they're not very good at making decisions, because decision assumes responsibility and commitment. Choices are easy. Bad luck, good luck, green, yellow, you know, all those things. And that is quite important. But what comes as a result? If you're really passionate about the future, if you're really passionate about doing something for others, your passion overflows, it goes to others, and you make others the multipliers of that passion. And that is something incredible. It becomes not just practical or valuable, it becomes emotional, it becomes heartfelt. For all of the people, you inspire people, and it's far beyond the motivation, because motivation is just a short push. And here would be a huge difference.
Wonderful, wonderful, Doctor. In fact, I want to ask you a question, but before I ask you that, I just want to tell those in the audience, I know several people want to ask questions. Please put it in the Q&A section, not in the chat, the Q&A section. And we have kept 15 minutes before the end to actually go through those questions. So you can type it in the Q&A sections. I'm going to read it out from there. I'm going to ask the esteemed panelists to answer or make a comment. Dr. Oleg, there's something that you said, which you said something about ego. And you said a leader shouldn't have an ego. I think that's something. What do you say exactly about ego?
Well, it's a bit tough and rough and unrealistic. Well, humans will have ego, but it's a matter to what extent we keep it under control. Right. You know? Therefore, as soon as you're stepping into a leadership position, you actually signing a promissory note that I will keep my ego under control, you know, to a certain level in a green zone, like on a dashboard instrument. Because you see, the highest purpose of leadership is purposeful acting for people and with people and for their needs. And therefore, as soon as you put your ego first, you will get into a red zone, because you ignore people, because your ego comes first, it blinds you.
Yeah. And the reason I asked is because I've worked with a lot of leaders in my life, both when, you know, my professional life, personal life, and I find a lot of these, what we say, successful leaders, I mean, who run large businesses or large industries or large institutes or associations, whatever you want to call it, they have a big ego. And it's, they're ambitious, but they also have a big ego. They don't want to listen to what you have to say. And you know, in some of them I've known for many years, and they've changed over time. They used to be people who would listen, but now that they've gotten that position of power, they've stopped listening. And I think that is truly detrimental, in my opinion, because I would have chosen to follow that leader, but I've stopped following now purely because his ego has grown so much that he just doesn't, or she doesn't resonate with me anymore. Right. So this is a difficult one. The ego one is a difficult one. And I think what happens is when people get into that leadership position, in that very high leadership position, I guess the ego is fed by other people as well. Is that what happens sometimes? Other people keep feeding the ego?
You get a bit intoxicated. Therefore, you must control yourself,
Right.
just to be realistic. We could look from very practical angle at this. Have you ever been attracted by somebody's ego? Probably not. No. You could be attracted by somebody great ambitious, great vision or great plans, some kind of a great goals. But none of us is attracted by someone's great ego. And you think, okay, my goals are greater than whatever, greater than me, greater than my organization. Therefore, my ego is just something that very destructive. Put it aside. Nothing wrong with that. But you're right. Sometimes people got a bit overspelled with all those praises. A simple recipe. Don't think of your achievements as accolades. Think of your achievements as responsibilities for further achievements.
Wonderful. I love that. I love that. Dr. Ariel, we've all gone through this crisis. We don't want to even talk about it anymore. Maybe the pandemic, or it could be, where stock markets crashing, situations, war zones, whatever. Now, in times of crisis, what's more important? Is leadership more important? Is management important? Both have a place and a role to play. What are your thoughts in times of crisis, major crisis?
Well, for the audience that I work with, I have to keep thinking of them and who I work with. And I think leadership is more important than management in times of crisis. I think that there are times that we're in the times of crisis that we're in as a result of mediocre leadership, I won't say leadership, but mediocre management, right? And can I say, just because someone is the head or someone is the top person in a company or an organization, it doesn't mean they're a leader. Right. That's not what a leader is. So,
absolutely.
Of course, you stop following a person that has a problem with their super ego. As my colleague said, I think a leader is a big definition. It's a very important definition. So when it comes to crisis, I would go for leadership, especially youth leadership. And that's what's happening now. What's really interesting is if you really look through history, and I mean any and every country, and all of us have our challenges, and they will continue because we're human beings living in the world.
Right.
Most of the time, young people are in the forefront of making that change. Now, we forget that. It's part of the history that we all learn. Mm-hmm. But if you look at any country, if you look at any difficulties that we've had, any very big issues, it's usually the young people that take up the mantle and say, thank you for telling us how bad it is. But not only are we looking beyond it, but we insist that if you're not going to do something about it, we are. And that's not just today. You can look in history 50 years ago, 100 years ago, it doesn't matter. Look at the big changes within cultures all over the world, and you're going to see young people there acting within their leadership, also following, but behaving in a leadership manner rather than just managing the difficult situation.
Absolutely. I mean, that's so true. And, Dr. Oleg previously stated about leadership has no age. And I think this is so important. And Dr. Ariel, absolutely right. I mean, we've seen what's happened in the Middle East, with the issues that's happened in other countries in the Middle East. It's the youth that have, raised their heads up. If you talk about anything about gun control, if you talk about peace, if you talk about war, if you talk about any rights in India right now, there is a lot of things happening about freedom. And so it's the young people. It's not the old people. It's the young people that they're raising their hands up. And maybe it's because younger people are more passionate. I don't know. Maybe they've got a lot less to lose. I don't know what the real reason may be. But why is it, Dr. Ariel, that young people are taking this lead? What is it?
They have more to lose. They don't have less. Because
they have more to lose. Okay.
The decisions that you and I are making now, and we are privileged. I mean, all of us here today in these global leaders today, we are privileged people. We make decisions. We actually make the decisions that are implemented. for those who have to follow those decisions tomorrow. And the difficulty is that we have people not sitting at the table who have to implement our decisions.
Right.
And people are people. We are emotional, we are psychological, we are more than just what we do. Yeah. And we will implement decisions that we are a part of with more passion, with more success, if we're sitting at the table helping to make that decision, than if we're just told to make that decision. So also, I believe that young people are passionate because they realize that these decisions that are being made, they're going to have to implement. And they're saying, and I agree with them, nothing without us, nothing about us without us. You know, so it's I think that we have to change our mindset at how we integrate young people, not just locally or nationally or internationally. And I'm not talking about young people that fit into our companies and into our organizations and say what we want them to say. No, I'm talking about integrating young people that might have a different opinion than we do, and actually mentoring them and inspiring them to leadership. So then when these decisions are made, they can be part of those decisions and then implement those decisions for success.
Wonderful. Thanks, Dr. Ariel. And as I promised, we have kept the last 15 minutes for Q&A. I mean, we've been speaking for 45 minutes and it went that quickly. So I've got a few questions here, and thanks, Mubarak Ali. Thank you. He's asked this question, and I can ask that to Dr. Oleg first. What comes to your mind when you hear these words? Curiosity, resilience, and the future of work. Curiosity, resilience, and the future of work. So three very different words, I think, but I'll ask Dr. Oleg first.
Thank you. First, curiosity. I'm so curious how it could change the future, because if we're all living in, we're all of us, 100% of all people who are thinking about the future could accept that today is non-satisfactory, because I want to make my future more interesting, brighter, better, and therefore it's non-satisfactory. In my curiosity leads me to find non-routine or non-ordinary solutions. And therefore, I'm curious myself. I'm an explorer. My role is to find grand solutions, and I can't do without curiosity. I'm such a cat that not afraid to be killed because of curiosity. You know, that is quite important. The second issue, future of work.
Resilience and future of work.
Okay, resilience. I wasn't born with a silver spoon. I know how to be in tough situation. I faced quite a few, tough days in my life. And resilience, it's nothing to bounce backwards, it's bouncing forward. Therefore, we all go through different challenges in life. We are forged to become better. Resilience is not repeating the same patterns as we did before. So resilience is a good, but the more become your resilience, the less you're talking about resilience. I never heard strong people talking about resilience. Sorry. But this is true. I talk with the people, great leaders from across the globe, from New Zealand to Australia, from India, Arab Emirates, Brazil, USA, South Africa, from all over the world. I never heard this word from them, because they're going through that challenges and they're bounced forward and they're walking that way. Future of work. Leaders have the most powerful tool, ability to create a vision. And that vision will define how we would live tomorrow. Tomorrow will come anyway, but how satisfactory it will be depends on our ability to create and execute that vision. Unfortunately, less than 0.1% of modern leaders have vision, and therefore it's a huge challenge, particularly in time of crisis, to grow those visionary leaders, true leaders, because it's not a gift. It's a skill, it's a competence that can be trained, taught, And those people would make that difference, and they will define the future of work. It's not the future of work. It's not some kind of a fad or a trend. Oh, it would be something like that. We will go in pajamas into our offices. Oh, we will from next Monday, we will work from a pub. No, it will call it working from home. No, that's a definite understanding of our roles in a way how we create a value for others being together.
Wonderful.
That is
Thank
very
you,
different.
Thank you, Dr. Oleg. I'm going to ask this to Dr. Ariel. There is Moses Equier. He's a young leader in the Ariel Foundation International. So I guess he belongs to your foundation. And yes. I'm not quite sure from where Moses is writing in, but thanks, Moses, for your question. He says, I want to ask, as a young leader, how and what is the best way to handle success and failure when leading a group of people? Success and failure. We talk a lot about success, right? But we don't talk much about failure.
Yes, and but that's a part of our daily lives. We all are successful and fail, or we all meet our goals and don't meet our goals, right? I think it's also the way you look at it. Of course, it's yin and yang, it's up and down, it's light and darkness. Of course, success and failure go together. So I believe that you have to understand that life is a cycle, and that I wouldn't call it necessarily failure. I don't use those words because I think that there's too much psychological baggage with the word failure. But I would say, there's a Hebrew word called chot, and chot means to miss center. So you think about a bullseye, and you try to go for the center of that bullseye. And when you miss the center, you don't say you failed. You say, well, I didn't quite get it. But there's a hole, maybe you hit somewhere else. Right. So I would say, don't look at the word quote unquote failure. Instead think, okay, I've missed my goal. I've missed my target. What can I do differently to make it different? And by the way, success is not, oh, you're successful when it's finished. Of course not. Of course not. It's like ebb and flow. As long as you have life, you're going to have the times where you're trying to meet goals. You're going to put it out there. You're going to come as close as possible as you can, right? And then you go for the next goals and the next and the next. So success is not stagnant, and also a failure, quote unquote, is not stagnant. But I would say, young people, stop using those words. And if you're not sure what to do, make up new ones. You don't have to go by what's already been there, right? So figure out other words in order to deal with these ever-ending issues when it comes to all of us trying to meet our various goals. Thank you.
No, absolutely. And I think I should also stop using the word failure, because sometimes I use it with, when my daughter or my son often say, oh, Dad, we screwed up on this one, or I didn't do this. And I always tell them, oh, don't be afraid of failures. Failure is a stepping stone to success, right? And maybe I should change the word and not use the word failure.
Just say mid-center. Or find another word.
Miss the center.
So you miss the center. It's okay. Keep going.
It's okay. But Dr. Oleg, do you think it's important, whatever word we call failure, but is it important for someone to miss a few things so they enjoy the fruits of their success? Do you think it's a good thing, rather than succeeding all the time? It's a good thing when you actually don't do something particularly well.
Okay, let's put it this way. Leo Tolstoy rewrote War and Peace, that sick book, 12 times.
Okay.
So we could call 11 failures and one success. In my view, success is a short-term result of a long-term commitment.
Beautiful.
And if at a certain point you see it as you failed, just carry on doing so, and you will be successful. Because if you are focused, if you know what you do, if you go beyond yourself, you will be successful. Can anyone put, we started this conversation about energy, right? Yeah. And the thing is, success is a result of accumulated and utilized energy. It's not a result of so much time spent doing something. And if you think, okay, I didn't become successful over 11 months, I should put a bit another month more, otherwise it's a failure. No, it's okay. That might be so. So you put energy into somewhere wrong direction, or you haven't put enough energy to become successful. Maybe it's not yours. Just do something else.
Wonderful. So there are many questions that have come in, and I'm afraid we're not going to be able to answer all because we have only 5 minutes more left on this webinar. But we're going to ask, before we're going to end, and I'm going to take this last question, but before we're going to end, we're going to ask both Dr. Ariel and Dr. Oleg just one line, maybe just 3 words of advice they would give to us in the audience of what are the things that they believe, maybe 3 crucial things that would make us better leaders. And then we are going to end this session. But I'm just going to ask this last question, even though we go a little bit out of time, from V Kai or V Chai, I'm not sure. She says, according, or I don't know if it's a man or a woman, but it's according to Peter Drucker in his book, The Effective Executive, he explained how to be a great manager in incorporation and how to be effective. My question is, if one manager has almost all the excellent qualities, could we call him or her a leader? Is that possible? If a manager has all those qualities, could we call him or her a leader?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Because leader is more of role and responsibility, right. Where manager could be just a rank.
Exactly.
And therefore they both fit together well.
Absolutely. And then there might be somebody who's a great manager and he or she may not realize it, but more than managing, he or she is actually leading, right? And I think Dr. Ariel said it, it's not, you just don't become a manager by, you don't become a leader by just calling yourself leader. It's other people who have to call you a leader. And I think that is really resonating very well in this comment as well. So we've got just 3 minutes more.
Do you want a simple example? Jack Welch. He passed away. He was exceptional manager, right? He wasn't great a visionary, but he was exceptional manager and people accepted him as a great leader.
Wonderful, wonderful. So before we end, Dr. Ariel, Dr. Oleg, and I wish this was a longer session. Maybe we're going to have another longer session later on. I really want to thank all our audience for staying for so long. And normally in a webinar, you'll have a lot of people in the beginning and they taper down at the end. We have seen the opposite. We had lesser people in the beginning and there are more people at the end. So that's really exciting for me. So just the 3 things, starting with Dr. Ariel, the 2 or 3 things that you would say for us to move or to become leaders. What do you believe are those 3 things?
Thank you. I think I'm going to end with a quote that we actually live our lives by with the foundation. And this is what I use every single day to help me to figure out how to be there for young people. And it's, if I'm not for myself, who will be for me? If I am only for myself, when am I? If not now, then when? That's by the great philosopher Hillel. But I have decided that he missed something. And it's, if not me, then who?
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Ariel. Dr. Oleg, you get the last word before we end.
I'll try to be quick. I often ask what's the difference between leaders, for instance, in different countries. And what I'm always saying, there is no difference between leaders in the UK, or in India, or any other countries. There is difference between leaders and non-leaders. And this difference is defined by mindset, because mindset is a most powerful leadership tool that allows to lead people, find solutions, create a vision, execute it, inspire others, yet redefining mindset again and again and again is leader's obligation. And this is the toughest work.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Doctor. We've got several people who have written privately saying that, I'd like to learn more. This is my mobile number. This is my LinkedIn profile. And I just want to tell you that this session is being recorded. It's going to be available hopefully by today on the YouTube channel of Global Leaders Today magazine. So you can continue, watching for further events as we move along. Dr. Ariel also has a great institute. Dr. Oleg has his coaching classes. He's got some amazing the work that he's doing. I do a lot of seminars and talks, but my real subject is of course real estate and real estate management. But I love leadership and coaching. So this is something that I really enjoy being a part of. But all this will be available to you on a recorded version. We will be sending the links to Dr. Ariel and Dr. Oleg's LinkedIn account. So I'm sure they wouldn't mind you being connected to them. And if you want to learn more about them, I'm sure they will welcome you and be able to guide you in every step. And I'm going to be one of your first students as I go along. And with that, we have exactly reached 1 hour. And so I really want to thank you. I want to thank Sherlyn, the editor of Global Leaders Today magazine. It's a great magazine, by the way. Please do read it. It's available for free online. And I look forward to seeing all of you again. And so Dr. Oleg and Dr. Ariel, I thank you very much for your very valuable time. I look forward to being in touch with person, but more importantly, I'm sure that we're going to have a nice session together again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.